What's going on, guys? Chaseontwowheels here, and in front of us we have Yamaha's 2021 MT-09 SP. Do you find yourself loving the way this bike looks and all the things about it, and you do a lot of city riding, and you want to find out, is this beast of a motorcycle capable of taming itself down and handling itself respectfully in a big city? If you're looking for that kind of information, I've got it for you today, guys. We're going to be testing out the MT-09 SP down in Atlanta, Georgia, to see what a performance machine handles in the city like. You know, this thing is made to ride hard. You don't get to ride hard in a city. You can't ride it crazy all the time. So, does it handle itself well? Let's find out in today's video. Boom. My friends, welcome to the city of Atlanta. I don't know why I love doing this turn. That's why I like doing this turn in the beginning of these city review videos. Love that big city shot. Alright guys, so you're looking into an MT-09 SP and you're going to be doing some city riding like that guy in the slingshot. Or, what? Why is there a Can-Am? That's not road legal at all. So guys, first off with the MT-09 SP for the city, we find ourselves at a red light. Now, this is going to be the first of what I know will be many red lights because we are in a city setting. And that's where I want to talk about weight on a motorcycle, because the weight is going to be so important. Most motorcycles, unless the weight is very misplaced on them, most bikes, when you get going, the weight drifts away, you know, most of them. But in the city, that's not the case. It's a lot of stop and go situations. This is where weight is absolutely key. Having a light motorcycle that's both light to ride and to stop, you know, is going to be extremely important, and it's going to keep you from getting really tired of riding in a city setting. I find, I don't really know how, but Yamaha has done an incredible job with making the MT-09 and the SP model specifically feel very light. I have no problems with just throwing this weight around, and that also helps the bike be really maneuverable, and we'll talk about maneuverability in a minute. As far as weight wise, this thing is primo when it comes to having to do stop and go and holding the bike up. All right guys, up here is the infamous road that I always take on our city tests, and that's because it is an absolute piece of shit. That is like most roads in downtown environments that I've noticed. The roads are not good. And now here's the thing. The MT-09 SP has this super nice racy suspension. You can adjust the suspension, both the front and the rear. We have the bike set up to be slightly harder, which means you feel more bumps. TBH, I'm a little worried about this road up here because this is a more higher spec bike. It's made to go faster. It's easier to go faster with a harder set suspension, but in a downtown setting, it's probably gonna be gross. My back's gonna just be vibrating violently. All right, here we go, suspension. I don't have faith in you, but I believe in you. If that's a thing. All right. Oh, that curb sucked. I hate this part so much. Oh, I hate this part. That wasn't that bad, honestly. The big bumps, though, there's no cushion, man. You feel every bit of it. Honestly, though, I thought that would be a little worse. I am a little happy that the suspension isn't as bad. Now, the thing to know about the suspension, like I said, it's adjustable. So if you live downtown and you got an MT-09 SP, I might recommend you adjust it to be a little softer. But honestly, off the rip, even with the more aggressive settings that we have in here, that wasn't that bad at all. That's a total pass for me, honestly. Sitting in traffic again. This is good. I'm glad we got this tread light. That'll let us see what the heat is like on this bike. I mean, it's a beautiful day today. It's like 80 degrees, but I am interested at what the heat feels like. Here's one thing I'm not a fan of the MT-09. When I stop the bike and I'm standing here, I don't love how much the clutch case sticks out. My leg's touching it, and it does get a little warm, but as far as the bike in general, this thing disperses heat extremely well. Like I was saying, it is a naked bike. It doesn't have a lot of fairings on top of it and having to funnel heat. So the heat just gets to go out. But, you know, we've been sitting at this red light for a hot minute. I got no heat problems whatsoever. You know, guys, one thing that I'm loving about this bike is the body position. You know, we talked about the body position in the first ride, but it's a relatively relaxed body position. My arms are kind of up high, my back is up straight. But something that's super good for here in downtown is that with my back up straight, I can look over my shoulder very easily. When you're in a body position where you're kind of leaned forward, you have to like look up and over your shoulder. It might not seem like a big deal, but that does take extra time. And when you're downtown or you're in a city setting, you've got so many things going on. Just being in this position where you can easily shoulder check, it's so nice. And also between each of these shoulder checks and these mirrors, these are the stock mirrors here on the MT-09. So between the good mirrors on here and the body position where I can easily like head check, like there's so many things going on, I get a good sense of what's around me. And in a situation like this where, dude, there's constantly stuff going on, I really appreciate head checking. You don't even know how big of a deal it is when you're downtown until you ride like a super sport or something where you have a forward leaning body position. That's when you realize, dang, it is harder to like look up and over your shoulder, as opposed to this. My head can just stay on a swivel. Another thing I have to give this bike props for, and this goes for Yamaha in general. You know, if you watch a lot of my review videos on bikes, the Yamaha, they've got the transmission down, man. When you're at these stop and go situations, there's a lot of times where you're going to be going from first to second to neutral. I have not had this bike fall into neutral on accident at all, and the transmission feels really solid. Like when it pops into first, I know it. When it pops into neutral, I know it. And for an action that you're going to have to repeat over and over and over again, it's really nice to have a transmission that goes where you want it to. Being downtown, if you had a bike that, you know, maybe it didn't like getting into neutral, it would be a nightmare. You know, guys, one thing I got to give this bike props for is the power. One of the things is power delivery, right? I want to have the power to, if I need in an emergency situation to like jump, power through and get to an exit route of where I am or what cars are around me, I have that ability. I knew the MT-09 SP had that, right? We know that this CP3 engine is no slouch. It has got power, and it's got power down low, which is where you kind of need it for the city. So it's great there. One of the things that's impressive to me is with how compliant this bike is with just riding regular. And we're in mode 2 for power. That's next to the highest mode. So we've got all the power here. We don't have it, you know, really chilled out that much at all. The bike is just super compliant with riding like this. Just kind of not pushing it, barely giving it anything. And it's totally okay with that. That's not that normal when you have motorcycles that have a lot of power. And I think this bike is doing a phenomenal job for just kind of puttering around town. This thing has power mode, so I can go 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I go to 4, the power is basically dead. It's worse than an MT-07, because an MT-07, at least it's, you know, torquey and punchy. So even if I wanted to go to an even more relaxed power mode, I've got 4, but even in mode 2, it's doing great. Really happy with the power, really happy with that throttle delivery of that power as well. I wouldn't have thought that on a motorcycle that is more kind of, I don't really want to call it race spec because this is a naked motorcycle, but you guys know what I mean. A more performance driven motorcycle, I kind of would have expected a little bit twitchier of a throttle, if I'm going to be honest. Man, we are, you just got to maneuver lane to lane all through the city. And that's one of the topics I wanted to bring up, is maneuverability on this bike. It kind of goes back to our body position conversation. It goes back to our weight conversation that I was saying earlier in the video. I feel like this bike is super light and maneuverable, but one of its weaknesses, I feel like, is the range of motion of the front handlebars. There are situations in a downtown setting, those are going to be the main situations where you need to make really tight turns. And if you guys look at the handlebars, that's as far as they go. Now, that hasn't led me to have any problems while moving, you know, like just maneuvering through the city like this. But if I went into a situation where I was maybe in a parking lot and I had to maneuver around a lot of cars, I think that would kind of hinder me. That's only gonna be when you're going so slow that you need to like almost like tiptoe the motorcycle around. That's gonna be when you need to make maneuvers like that. But you know, inevitably there are situations where you're gonna have to do that in a city setting, especially these tight ass parking lots. You guys might find an issue with how the range of motion is with the handlebars. We'll just kind of squeak through here. This is that maneuvering I'm talking about, man. You don't really have a problem per se until you got into that one situation. All right, guys, getting more into our downtown environment. This is typically where a lot of clutching is gonna go on. And this is, you know, goes with the whole stopping and going situation. Clutch feels relatively light, and for this situation, that is a great thing. My fingers are not getting tired at all. You know, I've been riding downtown for a couple hours now. I've had no problem with my clutch fingers getting tired out. It's just one of the things you're gonna have to do when you're down here. But yeah, like, feels really good. It's adjustable, so you can kind of set it to wherever, you know, feels comfortable for you. I think I could ride this bike with this clutch all day downtown and I'd have no problems. You know, guys, something else I've noticed that hasn't really been a problem on the MT-09 is people coming over in my lane and, you know, maybe not seeing me. We've had this problem with a couple motorcycles where they just kind of blend in a lot, and I don't know if that's the exhaust note or if that's the looks of the motorcycle, but I guess what I'm commenting on is visibility, right? If you've got a really loud exhaust, people hear you and you're visible to them because they'll know to look for you. If you have a very flashy looking motorcycle, I feel like they'll notice you. And I do feel like the gold front forks and that brushed aluminum swing arm, I think this is a pretty eye-catching motorcycle. I don't think the exhaust is particularly loud. You know, it's got like a lower tone. So I think this exhaust sounds good, but we're talking about, like, is it something that people are going to notice you for? And I don't think the exhaust is there enough, at least at the speed you're going to be going in downtown, to really get you noticed. If the whole point is visibility, I do think the looks help you out a lot. And regardless of what you think it looks like, you know, good or bad, the thing is about visibility. You want people to know you're there. And I think the MT-09 does a really good job of it. That being said, blacked out motorcycles look dope. I don't think I've touched on the brakes yet. So far, I've just been kind of one finger, two fingering the brakes. We haven't had a situation where I really needed to slam on them, but they do have a pretty light feel up front and they get progressively stronger. I've been pretty happy with the brakes. You know, I don't want super performance Brimbos that just bite instantly. In a downtown setting, you know, you're trying to be smooth. The road and all the things going on around you are already chaotic enough. I prefer to have everything just like have a smooth touch on it. The brakes have been doing a really good job with that. I feel like I don't need much more than, you know, one finger situation with the brakes. So far, this has been this has been good. I did not expect a performance bike to do so well. So guys, one of the last things I'll touch on is the seat here on the MT-09. Really have loved it, and this has been the stock seat. It's got a really good mix of hard and soft. The seat's been good, man. I got no problems. Butt's not sore or anything. And we've been down here for a hot minute. One of the final things we can mention is gear ratios. I feel like the MT-09's set up pretty well for city riding. I find myself in second and third the majority of the city. First gear does seem pretty short. I feel like first gear has a lot of power that I just don't want to use, so I find myself shifting a little early. But I feel like second gear and third gear feel really good for the city. The power is really smooth. It works well with the throttle and the weight of the motorcycle. Really happy with second and third. So guys, that's about all I've got for the MT-09 SP City review. The things that surprised me the most about this bike, one, I feel like it's a phenomenal bike for city riding. Well, let's get that out of the way. A couple of the surprises is probably one, how light and smooth this bike is. It's easy to just maneuver around, but the thing that surprised me probably the most is that the body position is so conducive for, you know, keeping an eye out for what's around you. Head checks are easy, you know, like moving around, doing whatever you got to do, just keeping a good idea of what's going on around you. I'm kind of surprised at how well the bike did. I didn't really think about that coming into this review. It's kind of one of the things that has been the most helpful for me riding around the city, is just how easy I can keep up with my presence as a rider. You know, what cars are in front of me, beside me, behind me, what's in my mirrors. I think this bike has done a phenomenal job with that, and being a more performance-driven motorcycle, it has been oddly tame, or it has the ability to be tame here in the city, and I'm totally here for that. I would not have expected this from a bike like this, but I'm super happy to get it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button. It is actually far more helpful for us YouTubers than you guys might realize. And if you enjoyed this video, we would love you to subscribe to the channel. We make a ton of motorcycle content. We've got this MT-09 as a SP as a loaner bike from Yamaha, so we've got a lot more content on the channel to check out. So we'd love you to subscribe to get more videos in your subscription feed in the future. And I'm Chase on Two Wheels. I appreciate you guys riding around with me, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Later. Outro crew, what's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for getting to the end of the video. If this is your first time getting to the end of one of my videos, we like to call you guys the outro crew. That means you got to the end of it. You watched the whole thing. Leave us a comment in the description down below, guys. When you do that, put OC in the comment. That stands for outro crew. That's way I know that the people commenting actually watch the entire video. Do y'all have this mentality where an MT-09 or any other like high spec bike, do you guys just automatically make the assumption that it's going to be terrible in the city? And then are you surprised that this one wasn't? It kind of makes me rethink my my thought process on high spec bikes. I feel like I shouldn't make as many assumptions on them as I typically do. But anyways, guys, I'm Chase on Two Wheels. I love you guys a little bit longer for making it to the end of the video, and I will see y'all on the next one. Y'all go ride safe out there. People be crazy out here. Want to make sure my outro crew is safe. Alright, guys. Later.